Can anything good really come from a billionaire's island? Let's talk about Blink Twice. Blink Twice, the directorial debut of Zoe Kravitz, yes, that Zoe Kravitz, Black Cat, daughter of Lenny, is a story about Frida, played by Naomi Ackie, about a woman who's just trying to find something exciting in her life. So when I initially saw the trailer, I was very excited for this movie. I really liked the concept, and it had, Channing Tatum as the main actor. So for educational purposes, I had to go see this movie. And I'm glad I did. In this story, Frida is fed up with her waitress job. So when billionaire Slater King, played by Channing Tatum, shows interest in her, she immediately jumps at the opportunity. They hit it off surprisingly fast, and so he invites her to his island along with her friend Jess, a few of his other billionaire friends, and a few other women. At first, everything seems perfect, maybe a little too perfect. But when Frida's friend Jess goes missing and she realizes she's losing her memory, other than the fact that she's having a good time, things take a darker turn. Spoiler alert, things go from bad to worse. Like I said, nothing good could ever happen on a billionaire's island. After what seems like an idyllic vacation, the women wake up one morning with bruises on their arms, dirt under their nails, a missing friend, and memory loss. Clearly something sinister is at play, and that sinister thing is the men taking advantage of the women and wiping their memory. There is a trigger warning on this movie, which I will get into later, but that's the concept of the film. Frida, determined to uncover the truth, teams up with Sarah, who initially was in competition with Frida, and I love this dynamic switch. Instead of the usual trope of women being at odds, they quickly band together to get a clearer scope of what's going on. This feels more realistic and empowering. They're not just damsels in distress waiting for a rescue or waiting for answers from someone else. They go out and look for the answers and find them and figure it out for themselves. So once Frida can convince Sarah of the whole situation, she takes Sarah back to the shed where she found the snake venom and has Sarah drink it. And this triggers a flood of memories for the both of them. And in that shed, they discover the terrifying truth that the perfume that they were using every morning was triggering their memory loss, and that Slater is a billionaire because he's selling that perfume to other filthy, wealthy men. And the only way to counteract the perfume is the snake venom. And that is why when Jess gets bit, we find out that Slater kills her at night. Because he knew that she was going to remember and cause a stir like Frida did. So as the women begin to piece everything together and get their memory back, they get revenge. And this is the strongest point of the film. The attack scenes were brutally realistic. The women weren't portrayed as weak. Instead, they channeled their rage into raw and filtered violence. Anya Taylor-Joy said it best. Female rage isn't some single tear and we're clutching our pearls and we're just holding ourselves. No, when we're mad, we are mad and we take it out violently and physically. One of my favorite scenes in the movie is when Sarah attacks one of the bodyguards from behind with a rock. She doesn't just hit him once. She hits him, he goes down, and she hits him again and makes sure that he's down. That is something someone would actually do. We're not just gonna do this one hit and run and, oh no, I got you down, bro, bet. Bop, 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 bop. Now going into the relevance of this movie, Zoe Kravitz really hit the mark with this theme with the times that we're living in. Billionaires are finally being called out, scrutinized, and the idea of an ethical billionaire is finally gaining traction. The film feels like a direct nod to the Jeffrey Epstein scandal, especially the horrors that took place on his island. And let's be honest, Epstein wasn't an isolated incident. He's just one example of the deep-seated corruption and abuse among the ultra-wealthy. So let's talk about the performances. A highlight for me was definitely Naomi Ackie. She's masterful with her facial expressions, and those close-up shots showcase her ability to convey panic and tension, drawing the audience deeper into the story. Channing Tatum was decent for this role, but I think that was intentional so that he didn't outshine our female lead. His good looks and charms made him a believable billionaire, but his performance didn't overpower the story. In fact, I think every woman, especially that 18 to 22-year-old range, should watch this movie. It's a stark reminder of how easily someone can be manipulated by a pretty face. Young women need to recognize red flags early on, like being invited to a private island after one night, no phone policy, no indication of a return date, These are all major red flags. Another standout performance was from Adria Arjona as Sarah. As I said earlier, I appreciate the realistic character arc they gave her. Initially, she saw Frida as competition, but once she saw that there was something wrong, she immediately had Frida's back, which is a true girl's girl. Now let's talk about the directing choices and style. Zoe Kravitz did a good job. There wasn't a single moment I wasn't fully engaged. She knew how to hold the audience's attention and make excellent use of the runtime. One thing that stood out to me was the use of sound effects. Sound effects were amplified in a way that you usually don't see in other films. For instance, there was a scene of a man opening a champagne bottle, and the twisting of the cork is so loud and unnerving. Moments like this created a sense of unease, making the island feel even more unsettling. It was a technical way to gaslight the audience. It may look like they're having a good time, but it doesn't feel like that.
What day is it?
So there was a trigger warning at the beginning of this movie because there were heavy themes, and that is pretty rare for the big screen. The only other time I remember seeing this was at the beginning of the Herogasm episode in The Boys. Right off the bat, I knew something intense was coming. So I saw a video on TikTok where someone said the warning wasn't enough and that the movie was very triggering for her. Personally, for me, if I knew themes like this was going to be very triggering for me to the point where I have to make a video about it, I would have taken that warning seriously and walked out and either like looked up like a summary of what the film was gonna have in it, or just not watch the movie altogether. Because personally for me, as a person that watches a lot of movies, I watch a lot of movies, and if you see a warning in front of a movie that's pretty much spoiling what's gonna happen, you know that it's gonna be pretty intense. And even I was sitting there I was sitting with my family, and I was sitting there like, it's like, ooh, do I even want to watch this movie? Because I'm like, I can't take it if it goes too far. And personally, I think the scenes didn't show as much as I thought they were going to show. And I'm very happy. Like, even when the scene was happening, it was one scene. I'm really thankful it was one scene because I was like, it did what it needed to do. I don't need this to be overdone. You don't need to show any more than this. This scene set the tone. It set that they were horrible men, and we move on, because it can be very triggering. So I'm happy for the scene that we're given. And I think Zoe did it well to the point where we didn't feel like, okay, Zoe, like this is now getting into like weird territories because why are you filming this for so long? So I don't think it showed as horribly as it could have gone. I think that it censored a lot. It was the idea of it that's very triggering. So if this is too much for you, I do not recommend going to see this movie. But it doesn't show it. It's just like it's all like in your head. It's all like, man, you imagine what really happens, because she doesn't show it, but you imagine it. It's like, that is horrendous, and you hope for them to kill these guys. It's like, yeah, get them. Once they do get them, you're like, get them. Sorry. I think the trigger warning was enough. I don't know if like the only other like trigger warning that could have been a little bit more than this is if like Zoe came on the screen, because I've seen those, you've seen those things like before Top Gun or before other movies, like the director will come on and be like, we were so excited to make this movie, blah, blah, blah. So if Zoe had came on and been like, hey guys, just letting you know that there's a trigger warning for this film, there's heavy themes. We don't show anything, but it's the idea of it. Something, more professional. Maybe that could have been more, but I think the trigger warning was enough. So overall, in conclusion, I enjoyed this directorial debut from Zoe Kravitz. And I'll definitely be keeping an eye out for her future work. I hope that she becomes another Jordan Peele and doesn't have this isn't just a one-hit wonder. Speaking of Jordan Peele, this did remind me of Get Out. It had like the similar themes. So instead of don't trust white people, it was don't trust men. So for my rating, I give this movie a 9 out of 10. I thought it was very engaging, very riveting. The fight scenes were great. I can't really say too much bad about this movie. I think the only criticism that I have for this film is maybe a little bit more build up in the beginning, maybe more like subtle tension or subtle, like, what's the words? Just more like some subtle ways to show that these guys are taking advantage of her, because it was only the dirt under her nails that she was like, oh, okay, something's up, or like her friend went missing. And that was like a really big moment. So I was like, okay. But if there was more like subtle moments building up, building up, and being like, okay, something's definitely wrong here, I think I would have raised my rating a little bit higher. But yeah, definitely a 9 out of 10 for Zoe Kravitz. So what did you think of this film? Make sure to comment down below if you've seen it or if you're wanting to see it. If you agree with my takes, make sure to comment down below. And then make sure to like and subscribe, because every Wednesday I'm here to review a movie. Every Wednesday and Saturday. Saturdays is usually late talks so that I can rant, ramble, and stutter. Okay? All right. I will see y'all next time. Bye.